We are looking at Sydney, a city shaped by its everyday streets that give it life. In the inner west, one street stands out for its character, King Street. Known for its vibrant atmosphere and bohemian spirit, it is one of Sydney's most iconic main streets, expressive, dynamic, and constantly in motion. Stretching from Sydney Park in the south to St. Paul's Oval in the north, King Street forms the lively spine of Newtown, a continuous ribbon of cafes, terraces, shops, and movement. For this study, I focus on a 1-kilometer stretch at the heart of this corridor, from Newtown High School, past Newtown Station, and down to the Redfern convenience store. This segment captures the full rhythm of King Street. To understand why this way, I turn to the work of urban thinker Jane Jacobs, whose ideas transformed how we design cities. In her landmark book, The Death and Life of Great American Cities, Jacobs explains what makes a street vibrant, safe, and socially alive. She identifies 4 key conditions that create urban diversity. Mixed primary uses, short blocks and high permeability, buildings of varied ages, and eyes on the street. These 4 principles form the theoretical framework for my analysis of King Street, and guide the way I read its form, its activity, and its sense of place. So let's start with her first condition, the need for primary mixed uses. In Chapter 8, Jane Jacobs argues that diversity of uses brings people out at different times of day and night, and that the presence of people attracts even more people. This stretch of King Street acts as the central organizing line for the neighborhood. It runs above the T2 rail corridor. Intersecting it are 2 major routes, Enmore Road and Erskineville Road. When we look at the zoning around King Street, almost the entire corridor falls under the E1 local center zone. This zoning encourages exactly the conditions that Jacobs describes as an active mixed use. It means cafes, restaurants, vintage shops, grocery stores, bars, hairdressers, bookshops, and small services all sit side by side. Mapping the trading hours of businesses reveals how this works in real time. In light pink, we see the uses that open mainly during the day. This includes morning cafes, church, schools, and a few daytime services. But, when we map the businesses that operate all day and into the evening, another pattern appears. The dark pink highlights the businesses that are open throughout the day. This pattern shows that, throughout the day, these services keep the footpaths active and visible. This continuity brings out people at different times of the day. This brings Jane Jacobs' first condition into action, a street where diversity of use supports diversity of life. The second condition Jacobs added was the need of short blocks. In her 9th chapter, she argues that frequent streets and short blocks are valuable, because of the fabric of intricate cross-use they permit, among the users of a city neighborhood. When we map the block sizes within my study area, the difference becomes immediately visible. Only a few blocks are longer than 90 meters, these are highlighted in green. These long blocks create moments where movement becomes more linear, with fewer opportunities to turn or explore the spaces behind the street. But the majority of blocks along King Street are far shorter, shown here in dark pink. Most are under 90 meters in length. This tight, fine-grained block structure creates constant opportunities to turn a corner, slip into a side street, or take an alternative path. Mapping the main streets shows how King Street connects directly into Enmore Road and Erskineville Road. But the pattern gets better when we map the laneways. Behind almost every short block, a network of narrow lanes opens up. These laneways allow people to move through the neighborhood as shortcuts, as alternate walking routes, and as connections. Together, the short block structure and dense network of lanes support walkability and continuous social life, making King Street a deeply permeable neighborhood. The third condition Jane Jacobs put forward is the need for aged building variety. She writes in Chapter 10, "Cities need old buildings so badly it is probably impossible for vigorous streets and districts to grow without them." I read this article a few months ago on the Mecca's controversy. This shows how the residents pushed back against the spread of chain food outlets and high-end brands replacing long-standing small businesses. These new food chains signal a shift in the street's economic landscape: more capital, higher rent expectations, and reduced affordability for small or culturally rooted businesses. But also, one of the most striking features is how new buildings insert themselves in without creating any mockery of the older fabric. The frontage map shows a good balance between narrow shop fronts under 5 meters and wider, newer frontages, allowing both small independents and larger tenants to coexist. Even in the back lanes, the age diversity becomes even more visible. Older service buildings, weathered brick walls, and Victorian-style buildings portray the street's past. Together, the narrow, older shop fronts, mixed-age buildings, and visible evolution of the street create an urban design variety that directly supports the economic diversity. In the fourth and final condition, Jane Jacobs talks about the need for eyes on street and density. She argues in the chapter 2 that there must be eyes upon the street, eyes belonging to those we might call the natural proprietors of the street. When we look at the zoning around King Street, the blocks behind the main spine are dominated by R1 and R2 residential zones. These areas contain dense residential areas that support everyday foot traffic. But when I counted how many people passed each segment in 3 minutes, the contrast was surprising. Along King Street, in front of the school, around Newtown Station, and toward the Redfern convenience store, the street carries dozens to hundreds of people in just a few minutes. But only 1 block behind, the story changes completely. In the back lanes, the same 3-minute interval records fewer than 10 people, sometimes even fewer than 5. These lanes are quiet, almost still, they produce almost no eyes on the street. In contrast, at the main street, above the shop, almost every building has shop-top housing. These upper floors add another layer of eyes on the street. This map clearly shows how transparent shop frontages highlighted in orange at the main street edge again act as eyes on the street. King Street is full of life, but the moment you turn into the back lanes, the energy disappears. This sharp drop in activity is not natural, it's a planning gap. If we aim for walkable, vibrant neighborhoods, why does the urban life stop at the edges of the main street instead of flowing into the lanes behind it? In conclusion, King Street works because all of Jacobs' conditions come together: mixed uses, short blocks, diverse buildings, and constant eyes on the street. But it also reminds us that vibrancy is fragile. It fades the moment planning stops paying attention. To keep places alive, the whole neighborhood needs care, not just the main street.